When they finally said my name, I knew my life would never be the same. I was sitting alone in the waiting area outside the conference room, staring out the tall window at the rain sliding down the glass. It was one of those cold, steady rains that makes the whole city feel quieter, like everyone is holding their breath. My hands were folded in my lap, palms damp even though the room was air-conditioned. I could hear the soft hum of the building, the distant click of heels on marble floors, but mostly I just heard my own breathing, slow, careful, like I was trying not to disturb the air. The door opened. A woman in a sharp navy suit stepped out and looked straight at me. "Mrs. Harrington?" She said it calmly, politely, like she was calling me for a routine meeting. But the way she paused, just a tiny beat, told me everything. She knew. Or at least she suspected. I stood up slowly. My legs felt heavy, like I'd been sitting there for days instead of 20 minutes. I nodded at her, didn't trust my voice yet. She smiled the kind of professional smile that doesn't reach the eyes and held the door open. Inside the conference room, the rain sounded farther away. The long table was dark wood, polished so perfectly I could see the gray sky reflected in it. There were 5 people already seated. I recognized all of them from photos I tried hard not to look at too often. Alexander's family. His mother sat at the head, silver hair pulled back neatly, wearing a cream blouse that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to be. Next to her was his older sister, Victoria, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Then his Aunt Eleanor, the one who runs the family foundation. 2 men I didn't know by name but knew by reputation, uncles or cousins, board members, the kind of people who get quoted in business articles. And at the far end, in a chair turned slightly away from the table, was Alexander. My husband. He wasn't looking at me. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the window. He looked tired. More than tired, worn down in a way I hadn't seen before, even during the late nights when he used to sneak away from work to come see me. Nobody stood when I walked in. Nobody smiled. The woman in the navy suit closed the door behind me with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. Alexander's mother spoke first. Her voice was smooth, educated, the kind of voice that never has to raise itself to be heard. "Please, sit down." I walked to the empty chair at the opposite end of the table, the one they'd clearly left for me. I could feel every pair of eyes on me as I moved. My simple black dress suddenly felt too plain, too cheap. I'd bought it 2 years ago for a friend's wedding. It was the nicest thing I owned. I sat. Folded my hands again. Waited. The silence stretched. Outside, the rain kept falling. Victoria broke it. "So," she said, leaning forward slightly, "you're the one." Not a question. Just a statement, cool and flat. I looked at Alexander. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. His fingers were laced together on the table, knuckles pale. I took a slow breath. "Yes," I said quietly. "I'm the one." His mother tilted her head just a fraction. "And you've been married to my son for how long, exactly?" 2 years next month." A soft exhale from someone. Maybe Eleanor. Maybe one of the men. Victoria gave a small, humorless laugh. 2 years, she repeated. And none of us knew. I didn't answer that. There was nothing to say. We'd made a choice. Alexander and I. We'd chosen quiet. We'd chosen simple. We'd chosen each other over everything else. I thought it would protect us. I was wrong. Alexander finally looked at me. His eyes were the same deep blue I fell in love with the first night we met, but right now they were full of something that hurt worse than anger, regret, maybe. Or fear. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice was low, rough. The words hung in the air. His mother's gaze moved between us, calm and measuring. "Well," she said at last, "now that we're all here, perhaps you'd like to explain how this happened." I looked out the window again. The rain was heavier now, blurring the city lights into soft streaks. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't quite get enough air. How this happened. It started so small. So ordinary. I was 26, working double shifts at a coffee shop in Brooklyn to pay off student loans. He came in one rainy Tuesday morning, tall, dark hair damp from the weather, wearing an expensive coat but no umbrella. He ordered a medium black coffee, no room for cream, and stood at the counter longer than he needed to. I noticed him because he smiled when I handed him the cup. Not the polite customer smile. A real one. Warm. A little tired. He came back the next day. And the day after that. We started talking. Little things at first, weather, music, the best bagel place nearby. Then longer things. Books. Dreams. The way the city felt different at night. He never told me his last name. Not for months. I didn't ask. I liked that he seemed to relax when he was with me. That he laughed at my stupid jokes. That he listened like what I said actually mattered. One night, after closing, he waited outside in the cold until I finished cleaning. Walked me to the subway even though it was out of his way. We stood under the awning while the train rumbled below, and he kissed me for the first time. It was soft. Careful. Like he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. After that, we saw each other whenever we could. Late nights. Early mornings. Stolen hours between his mysterious work obligations and my shifts. He told me he came from money. Old money. The kind that came with expectations. Boards. Charities. Family dinners where people talked about trusts and acquisitions like normal people talk about weekend plans. He said he hated it sometimes. Felt trapped. I told him about growing up in a small town, my mom raising me alone after dad left, how I moved to the city with 2 suitcases and a dream of doing something creative, maybe writing, maybe design, I wasn't sure yet. We fit. Somehow. Even though on paper we shouldn't have. When he finally told me who he really was, Alexander Harrington, only son of the Harrington Group, heir to billions, I didn't believe him at first. I laughed. He didn't. He showed me an article on his phone. There he was, in a tuxedo at some gala, arm around a beautiful woman in a red dress who was definitely not me. I felt sick. But he looked at me with those blue eyes and said, "That's not my life. Not the part that matters. You are." We kept it quiet after that. No big announcement. No ring on social media. Just us. We got married on a Thursday afternoon in City Hall. I wore a white sundress I found on sale. He wore the same dark suit he wore to meetings. We had 2 friends as witnesses, my coworker Jenna and his old college friend Mark, the only person he trusted with the truth. Afterward, we ate pizza in a tiny place in the West Village and went back to my apartment. We didn't have a honeymoon. He had to fly to London the next day for work. But we were married. And for 2 years, it worked. He bought us a small apartment uptown, nothing crazy, just 2 bedrooms, good light. He said it was close enough to his office but far enough from the family penthouses that no one would notice. We cooked dinner together when he was in town. Watched old movies. Argued about whose turn it was to do dishes. Fell asleep tangled up on the couch more nights than in our bed. He still traveled a lot. Still had to go to those dinners and galas. Sometimes he'd come home late, smelling like expensive wine and other people's perfume, and I'd pretend not to notice how quiet he got. I told myself it was okay. That we were building something real. That love didn't need an audience. I was wrong about that too. Back in the conference room, the silence pressed in again. Alexander's mother leaned forward slightly. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked me. Not unkind. Just direct. I swallowed. "I think so." "You think so?" Victoria repeated, voice sharp. "Do you have any idea the position you've put him in? The position you've put all of us in?" I looked at Alexander again. He was staring at his hands now. I didn't put anyone anywhere, I said quietly. We made a choice. Together. His mother's eyes narrowed just slightly. And what choice was that, exactly? To hide? To lie? To be happy, I said. The words came out steadier than I felt. To have something that was just ours. A soft sound, almost a sigh, from Eleanor. Alexander finally spoke again. Mother, please. This isn't her fault. His mother turned to him. Isn't it? You're 33 years old, Alexander. You know what's expected. You know the responsibilities you carry. And instead of discussing this with your family, with me, you chose to marry her, in secret. Her. Like I wasn't sitting right there. I felt something twist inside my chest. Not anger, exactly. More like a deep, quiet ache. Alexander's voice was low. I love her. 4 words. Simple. True. But the way his mother looked at him, like he'd just said something childish, made my stomach drop. Love, she said softly, is not the only consideration. Victoria leaned forward again. There are agreements, Alexander. Prenups that were supposed to be signed. Background checks. The foundation. The board. Do you think this just affects you? He didn't answer. I looked down at my hands. My wedding ring was simple, white gold, thin band, no diamond. Alexander picked it out because he said I didn't like flashy things. I twisted it slowly with my thumb. I thought about the night he proposed. We were on the couch, halfway through a movie, barefoot, sharing a bowl of popcorn. He just reached into his pocket, pulled out the little box, and asked. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. I said yes before he even finished the question. I thought about all the mornings I woke up alone because he had early calls. All the nights I fell asleep waiting for him to come home. All the times I told myself it was worth it. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'd been naive. The rain was louder now, tapping hard against the windows. His mother spoke again, softer this time. We're not monsters, she said. We're simply trying to protect what generations have built. You must understand that. I looked up at her. I do, I said. But he's not a company. He's a person. She studied me for a long moment. And you, she said, are now part of this whether you like it or not. I felt Alexander's eyes on me again. When I looked at him, he looked lost. I wanted to reach across the table. Take his hand. Tell him it would be okay. But I didn't. Because I wasn't sure it would be. The woman in the navy suit, who I now realized was probably their family lawyer, cleared her throat gently. There are documents, she said, sliding a thick folder across the table toward me. We'll need signatures. I stared at it. Alexander's voice was barely above a whisper. We don't have to do this today. His mother didn't look at him. Yes, she said calmly. We do. I reached out slowly and touched the edge of the folder. The paper felt cold. Outside, thunder rumbled low in the distance. I took a slow breath. And I knew, in that quiet room with the rain pouring down, that everything was about to change. Not just for me. For us. For the life we tried so hard to keep secret. It was all coming out now. And I had no idea what would be left when it did. I keep thinking back to how it all started, like if I go far enough back, I can figure out where things went wrong. Or maybe where they went right. It's hard to tell anymore. I grew up in a little town in upstate New York you've probably never heard of. One stoplight, one grocery store, one high school that everyone went to from kindergarten through graduation. Our house was small, 3 bedrooms, peeling blue paint on the outside, creaky wooden floors inside. Mom worked as a nurse at the local clinic, long shifts that left her tired but still smiling when she came home. Dad left when I was 7. No big fight, no note, just gone one morning. Mom never talked bad about him. She'd just say, some people aren't built for staying, and go back to folding laundry. It was always just the two of us after that. Money was tight, but we had enough. Mom made sure of it. She'd clip coupons, buy clothes from the thrift store, grow tomatoes and herbs in pots on the back porch. We didn't have fancy vacations or new cars, but we had quiet evenings on the couch watching old movies, sharing a bowl of popcorn. She taught me that the best things in life don't cost much: time, kindness, a good cup of tea when it's cold outside. I was a quiet kid. Liked reading more than parties. Spent hours in the town library, hiding in the back corner with stacks of books. I dreamed of moving to the city one day, doing something creative, maybe writing stories, maybe designing book covers. Something that felt like mine. When I was 18, I got into a state school with scholarships and loans. Mom cried when we packed my stuff into her old Honda. She kept saying she was proud, but I could see she was scared too. I promised I'd call every Sunday. The city was louder than I expected. Brighter. Faster. I got a tiny studio in Brooklyn, worked weekends at a diner to cover what the loans didn't. Classes during the day, shifts at night, subway rides in between. I was tired a lot, but it felt like forward modi. Like I was building something. After graduation, the jobs I wanted weren't there. Graphic design gigs went to people with better portfolios or connections. So I kept waiting tables, then moved to a coffee shop with better tips and kinder managers. I told myself it was temporary. I'd save up, take online classes, try again. That's where I was when I met him. It was a Tuesday morning in October, rainy and gray. The shop was half empty, just a few regulars with their laptops and newspapers. I was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine, when the door opened and he walked in. He shook the rain off his coat, dark wool, expensive looking but not flashy, and looked around like he wasn't sure he was in the right place. Tall, dark hair a little messy from the wind, blue eyes that seemed tired. He had a quiet way about him, like he didn't want to take up too much space. He stepped up to the counter. Medium black coffee, please. No room. His voice was low, calm. No rush. I nodded, started pulling the shot. That'll be $3.25. He handed me a card. The name on it said Alexander Reed. I didn't think anything of it. Lots of people use middle names or whatever. When I gave him the cup, our fingers brushed for half a second. He smiled, small, real, like something hurt, but he was glad to be there anyway. Thanks, he said. He took a table by the window and opened a book. Not a laptop, not a phone, just a paperback with a worn cover. I remember thinking that was nice. Most people stared at screens all morning. He stayed until we closed at noon. Left a $10 tip on a $3 coffee. He came back the next day. Same order. Same table. Same quiet smile. After a week, we started talking. Little things. Rough morning? I asked once when he looked more tired than usual. He shrugged. Meetings. What kind of work do you do? He paused, like he was choosing his words. Family business. Mostly boring stuff. I laughed. Aren't all jobs mostly boring stuff? That got a real smile out of him. Yeah. You're right. He asked about me too. What I studied in school. Why I liked working mornings. I told him it was quieter, people were kinder before noon. What kind of music I listened to when I walked home at night. He listened. Really listened. Didn't check his phone. Didn't look around the room. Just looked at me like what I was saying mattered. One morning, the machine broke. Steam everywhere, customers grumbling. I was stressed, trying not to cry in front of everyone. He waited until the rush died down, then leaned over the counter. Hey, he said softly. You okay? I shook my head. It's stupid. Just a bad day. It's not stupid. He left that day without saying more, but when I got home that night, there was a small package outside my apartment door. Inside was a new travel mug, the kind that keeps coffee hot for hours, and a note. For the bad days. No last name. No phone number. Just that. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. After that, we talked more. He'd wait until my break sometimes, walk with me to the park nearby. We'd sit on a bench, share a bagel or just watch people go by. He told me about growing up with pressure. Expectation. Never feeling like he could just be himself. I told him about growing up with not enough money, but enough love. How Mom taught me that being kind costs nothing. He said he liked that about me. That I was real. I laughed. As opposed to what? He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me with those blue eyes. As opposed to most people I know. We never talked about money. Not really. He dressed nice, but not over the top. No watch that cost more than my rent. No name dropping. He took the subway like everyone else. Carried his own umbrella when it rained. One night, the shop closed early because of a storm. Power flickered, streets flooded. He was there again, reading in the corner. You shouldn't walk home in this, he said. I'll be fine. I've got boots. He looked unsure. Let me at least wait with you till the worst passes. We sat at one of the little tables after I locked up. Shared a cup of tea from the leftover leaves, chamomile, the calming kind. The rain pounded the windows. Thunder rolled. We talked for hours. About everything and nothing. Books we loved. Places we wanted to see one day. The way silence could feel comfortable with the right person. When the rain slowed, he walked me home. Held the umbrella over both of us even though he got wet on his side. At my door, he stopped. I like this, he said quietly. Talking to you. Being with you. My heart did something funny. Me too. He leaned in slow, like he was giving me time to move away. I didn't. The kiss was soft. Warm. Careful. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine for a second. Good night, Emily. He knew my name from my name tag. I'd never told him. I watched him walk away in the rain, hands in his pockets, until he turned the corner. After that, we saw each other whenever we could. He'd text sometimes, simple things. Thinking of you. Hope your day's going okay. Never too much. Never pushy. He'd bring me little things. A book he thought I'd like. A scarf when the weather turned cold. Once, a tiny plant for my windowsill, a succulent, because he said they're hard to kill and I laughed and said that was perfect for me. We went on walks. Ate cheap dumplings in Chinatown. Sat in quiet cafes where nobody bothered us. He was kind in small ways that meant everything. Held doors. Listened without interrupting. Remembered that I liked 2 sugars in my tea, not 1. One night, we were sitting on my couch, my tiny studio with the lumpy secondhand sofa, watching an old black and white movie. He had his arm around me, my head on his shoulder. I asked, why me? He was quiet for a minute. Because you see me, he said finally. Not what I have. Not what people think I should be. Just me. I turned to look at him. I like just you. He smiled then, soft and real, and kissed me like he meant it. We didn't talk about the future much. Not at first. It felt too big. Too soon. But slowly, he told me more. About the family business. How it wasn't really his. How he'd gone to the right schools, taken the right jobs, because it was expected. I don't want that life, he said one night. We were in his apartment for the first time, a nice place uptown, but not crazy huge. Simple furniture, books everywhere. I want something real. I didn't ask what that meant. Not yet. Months passed. We got closer. He met my mom over video call once. She liked him right away, said he had kind eyes. I met his college friend Mark, the only person he really trusted. Still, he kept parts of himself back. I didn't push. Then one night, after we'd been together almost a year, he told me everything. We were in my kitchen, tiny, barely room for 2 people, making pasta. He was chopping onions, I was stirring the sauce. He stopped chopping. "There's something I need to tell you." His voice was different. Serious. I turned the burner down. "Okay." He put the knife down. Looked at me. "My last name isn't Reed. It's Harrington." I blinked. "Okay. Alexander Harrington. Of Harrington Group." The name hit me like cold water. I'd seen it in magazines. Newspapers. The kind of wealth that buys buildings, funds hospitals, gets invited to White House dinners. I stared at him. "You're that Harrington?" He nodded once. I laughed, but it came out shaky. "You're joking." "I'm not." He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo from some event. There he was, in a tux, standing next to his mother, the elegant woman I'd seen in articles. I sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs. "Why didn't you tell me?" He knelt in front of me, took my hands. "Because I didn't want you to look at me different. I wanted you to know me first. The real me." I looked at him, at the man who waited in the rain for me, who brought me tea when I was sick, who laughed at my terrible jokes. "I do know you," I said quietly. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it for months. "I love you, Emily." The words were simple. Steady. "I love you too." We didn't talk about what it meant that night. Just finished dinner, curled up on the couch, held each other a little tighter. But after that, things shifted a little. Not between us it was still good. Still real. But the world outside started pressing in. He had more obligations. More trips. More late nights. I told myself it was okay. We kept it quiet. No big announcements. No photos online. He said his family would never understand. That they had plans for him. Expectations. I said I didn't need their approval. I just needed him. So we built our little life in the spaces between. Quiet mornings when he could stay over. Evenings cooking together in whichever apartment we ended up in. Smiles across crowded rooms when he had to go to events and I stayed home. Silence that felt safe. I thought it would be enough. I thought love could be that simple. Looking back, I see how young I was. How much I believed in the idea that if something's real, it can survive anything. I didn't know yet what real pressure felt like. I didn't know what it felt like to sit in a conference room with the rain coming down, watching the man you love look like he's carrying the weight of the world. But that's later. Back then, it was just us. 2 people in a small kitchen, sharing teacups, smiling at each other like the rest of the world didn't matter. Back then, it felt like it never would. After Alexander told me who he really was, things didn't change between us overnight. Not the way we talked, or laughed, or held each other. But there was a new quiet sometimes, like we were both waiting for the other shoe to drop. We kept seeing each other the same way. Coffee shops. Walks in the park. Nights in my little studio or his quiet uptown apartment. He still brought me books and scarves and little plants for the windowsill. I still made him laugh with stories about crazy customers at the shop. But now I knew. I knew what his last name meant. I knew the articles I'd started avoiding on purpose, the ones about mergers and galas and most eligible bachelor lists with his photo. I knew his mother's face from charity event pictures, always perfect, always smiling like she knew exactly how the world worked. And I knew he was scared. Not of me. Of them. One night, maybe 6 months after he told me the truth, we were lying in bed in his apartment. The city lights were coming through the half-open blinds, making stripes across the sheets. He was on his back, staring at the ceiling. I was curled against his side, tracing lazy circles on his chest. He said, out of nowhere, they'd never accept you. Just like that. Quiet. Flat. I lifted my head. What? He didn't look at me right away. My family. If they knew about us. They wouldn't understand. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Why not? He turned then, blue eyes serious. Because you're not part of that world. You didn't go to the right schools. Your family doesn't have the right name. You're not, he stopped, like he hated the words. You're not useful to them. Useful. I pulled back a little. Sat up, pulled the sheet around me. So what does that mean? We just keep hiding forever? He sat up too. Reached for my hand. No. God, no. I don't want that. He squeezed my fingers. I need time. To figure out how to tell them. To make them see you the way I do. I looked at him for a long minute. And if they never do? He didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. We didn't talk about it again for a while. But it sat there between us, quiet and heavy. A few months later, he proposed. It wasn't planned or fancy. We were on my couch, halfway through some old movie, barefoot, sharing a bowl of ice cream straight from the carton. He'd been quiet all evening, more than usual. He put the spoon down. Reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. He opened it. Inside was a simple white gold band, thin and plain, no diamond. Just a tiny engraving inside, forever ours. He looked at me, nervous in a way I'd never seen him. Marry me, he said. Not a question. Just the words, soft and sure. I stared at the ring. Then at him. Alexander. I know it's simple, he said quickly. I know it's not what. It's perfect, I whispered. He slid it onto my finger. It fit exactly. We kissed, slow and deep, like we were sealing something bigger than ourselves. After, lying tangled together, I asked the question I couldn't hold back. What about your family? He was quiet for a long time. We'll tell them later, he said finally. After we're married. When it's real. When they can't change it. I wanted to argue. To say we should tell them now. Face it together. But I saw the fear in his eyes. Real fear. And I loved him too much to push. So I nodded. Okay. Later. We got married 3 weeks after that. It was a Thursday in April, warm enough for light jackets but still cool in the shade. We went to City Hall downtown. Just us, Jenna from the coffee shop, and Mark, his old college friend who'd kept our secret from the beginning. I wore a simple white sundress I found on sale, nothing bridal, just soft cotton that moved when I walked. He wore a dark suit, no tie. We both looked like we were going to lunch, not getting married. The ceremony was short. 10 minutes, maybe. A judge in a small room with wood paneling and a flag in the corner. We said the words. Exchanged rings, his was the same white gold, plain like mine. We wrote our own vows, nothing fancy. I promised to love him on quiet mornings and loud nights. To choose him every day. To hold his hand when the world got too heavy. He promised to come home to me. To build a life that was ours, not anyone else's. To love me even when it was hard. When the judge said, "You may kiss," he did, soft, careful, like he couldn't believe I was really his. After, we walked out into the sunlight holding hands. Jenna took a few photos on her phone, us on the courthouse steps, laughing because the wind kept blowing my hair in my face. Mark clapped Alexander on the back and said something I couldn't hear that made him smile. We went to a tiny Italian place in the West Village afterward. Red checkered tablecloths, candles in wine bottles. Shared a pizza and a bottle of cheap red wine. Laughed about how the judge kept calling him Mr. Reed, because that's what was on the license. We'd used his middle name to keep it quiet. It was perfect. Simple. Real. Ours. That night, back in my apartment, our apartment now, I guess, we made love slow and quiet, like we were still saying vows with our bodies. Afterward, he held me close, fingers tracing my new ring. I've never been this happy, he whispered against my hair. Me neither. But even then, in the dark, with his arms around me, I felt it. The worry. Small, but there. Because we both knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of hiding. He had to fly to London the next morning for work. Kissed me goodbye at 5 a.m., promised to call when he landed. I went to work like normal. Told Jenna everything was great. Showed her the ring under the counter so no one else would see. We settled into married life in secret. He bought us a small apartment uptown, 2 bedrooms, big windows, nothing crazy. Close enough to his office, far enough from the family buildings that no one would notice. We cooked dinner together when he was in town. Fell asleep on the couch watching movies. Left little notes for each other when one of us had to leave early. He still went to family dinners. Galas. Board meetings. Sometimes he'd come home late, tie loosened, looking drained. I'd make him tea. Rub his shoulders. Ask how it went. He'd say, fine, and change the subject. I didn't push. We told ourselves we'd tell them soon. After the next big deal closed. After his mother's birthday. After the holidays. There was always a reason to wait. I wore my ring on a chain under my clothes when I went places I thought someone might recognize him. Took it off for photos with friends. He never wore his in public. We got good at the lie. 2 years passed like that. 2 years of love that felt huge and real and private. 2 years of quiet worry growing in the background. I told myself it was worth it. That love like ours didn't need approval. That one day we'd tell them, and it would be okay. But deep down, I think we both knew. Secrets don't stay small forever. They grow. Until one day, someone finds out. And everything you built in the quiet comes crashing into the light. I remember the drive to Alex's family estate like it was yesterday. He'd been quiet the whole way, his hand resting on mine as we wound through gated roads lined with perfect trees. The house came into view slowly, a massive stone mansion that looked more like a hotel than a home. White columns, manicured lawns stretching forever, fountains in the driveway. I'd seen pictures online once, but nothing prepares you for standing in front of something that big in real life. Alex parked near the entrance and turned to me. "They're going to love you," he said, squeezing my fingers. I smiled, but my stomach was already twisting. We'd been married 6 months by then, quietly at City Hall with just 2 friends as witnesses. He wanted to keep things private until he was ready to tell his family. I understood. His world was different, old money, boardrooms, expectations. I was just a graphic designer who grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with my mom. Normal job, normal life, normal everything. We walked inside, and the first thing that hit me was how quiet it was. No music, no TV in the background, no kids running around yelling. Just the soft click of my shoes on the marble floor echoing too loud. A woman in a neat uniform took our coats and led us through hallways that felt endless. Crystal chandeliers, huge paintings on the walls, flowers arranged like they belonged in a magazine. Everything screamed money, the kind that's been around for generations. We ended up in a sitting room where his family was waiting. His mom stood first, tall, slim, wearing a cream dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her hair was perfect, blonde with highlights that looked natural even though they couldn't be. She smiled politely and came over to hug Alex. Darling, you're late, she said lightly, but her eyes flicked to me for half a second. I sat there listening, nodding when it felt right, smiling when someone looked my way. But mostly, I felt invisible. No one asked me what I did for work. No one asked where I was from or how Alex and I met. It was like I was part of the furniture, just there because Alex brought me. Every time I tried to join in, the topic shifted before I could say much. At one point, his mom turned to me and said, "So, Mia, do you ski?" with that same polite smile. I shook my head. "No, I've never tried." "Oh," she said, like that explained everything. Then she turned back to Alex. "We should plan the annual trip soon. The chalet's already booked for February." I glanced at Alex. He gave me a small, apologetic smile and reached for my hand under the table. His fingers were warm, but it didn't help much. The silence between courses felt heavy. Silverware clinking on plates, the occasional murmur. No laughter, no real warmth. Just this careful, practiced politeness. His grandmother finally arrived halfway through the main course, roast something with fancy sauce. She was tiny but sharp-eyed, wearing pearls and a silk scarf. She kissed Alex on the cheek and then looked at me like she was sizing up a purchase. "Who's this?" she asked directly. "Mia," Alex said. "She's with me." Grandmother nodded slowly. "Lovely," she said, but her tone made it clear she wasn't impressed. She spent the rest of dinner talking about family history, who married who, which cousin was engaged to a senator's daughter. I caught her staring at my dress once. It was the nicest one I owned, but next to them, it probably looked cheap. His dad was next, standing by the fireplace in a button-down shirt and slacks like he'd just stepped off a yacht. He shook Alex's hand firmly, then nodded at me. "This must be the friend you mentioned," he said to Alex, not even looking at me long enough to ask my name. There was his older sister, Victoria, sitting on a velvet sofa with her legs crossed. She had that same polished look, dark hair in a sleek bun, diamond earrings catching the light. She gave me a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. And then his younger brother, James, lounging in an armchair scrolling on his phone. He glanced up, said, "Hey," to Alex, and barely acknowledged me. Alex introduced me as, my girlfriend, Mia. I hated that word in that moment. Girlfriend. Not wife. But we'd agreed, no big reveal yet. He wanted to ease them into it. I shook hands, said "Nice to meet you" to each of them, trying to sound confident. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Dinner was announced, and we moved to the dining room. That's when it really hit me. The table was ridiculously long, dark wood, shining under a chandelier with what felt like 1,000 crystals. Place settings for days, multiple forks, spoons I didn't even know the purpose of, wine glasses lined up like soldiers. I sat where the maid pulled out my chair, right between Alex and an empty seat that turned out to be for his grandmother, who arrived late. The food was served course by course, some kind of cold soup first, then salad, then fish. Everything tasted amazing, but I could barely eat. Conversation started slow. His mom asked Alex about work, about the new merger his company was handling. His dad talked about golf scores and a trip to Aspen coming up. Victoria mentioned charity galas and shopping in Paris. James complained about his professor at whatever Ivy League school he went to. The weeks after that first dinner dragged on like a slow ache. Alex kept saying we'd tell them soon, that he just needed the right moment. I nodded every time, because I loved him and I didn't want to push. But inside, the doubt was growing, quiet but steady, like a crack spreading in glass. We started getting invited to more family things, brunch at the country club, a charity auction, his mom's birthday lunch at some restaurant where the menu didn't even have prices. Each time, I went as the girlfriend. Each time, it hurt a little more. The small insults started early, so small I almost thought I was imagining them. At the country club, Victoria was talking about a new designer boutique that just opened downtown. "You should come with me sometime," she said to me, her voice sweet. They have some really cute pieces in more accessible price points. She smiled like it was a compliment. Alex was across the table talking to his dad and didn't hear. I just said, thanks, maybe, and took a sip of my mimosa to hide the heat in my cheeks. Another time, at the auction, his mom introduced me to one of her friends. This is Mia, Alex's little friend from the city. Little friend. Like I was 12. The woman gave me this pitying smile and asked if I was in school still. I told her I'd been working as a graphic designer for 5 years. She nodded politely and turned back to Mrs. Harrington to talk about their upcoming cruise. My opinions didn't matter. Whenever I tried to say something, about a book I'd read, or a news story, or even just what movie we should watch when the family was picking one for after dinner, they'd listen for half a second, then someone would change the subject. It was like my voice just floated away into the high ceilings and disappeared. The worst part was when they started talking about Alex's future like I wasn't even in the room. It happened first at his mom's birthday lunch. We were at a corner table in this fancy French place, sunlight streaming through white curtains. The conversation had been light, vacations, new horses at the stables, some cousin's engagement. Then his mom leaned over to Alex and said, you know, Eleanor's daughter, Charlotte, is coming back from London next month. She's finished her master's at LSE. Such a bright girl. Your father and I were thinking it might be nice to have her over for dinner. You two always got along so well. Alex stiffened beside me. I felt his hand find mine under the tablecloth, but he didn't say anything right away. His dad nodded. Good family. Solid match. You're not getting any younger, son. Victoria chimed in with a laugh. Charlotte's gorgeous now. You should see her Instagram. And she's already on the board of 2 nonprofits. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, feeling the blood drain from my face. They were planning his marriage. Right in front of me. Like I was invisible. Alex finally spoke. Mom, I'm seeing someone. His mom waved a hand. Yes, dear, we know. Mia's very sweet. But we're talking about the long term here. Legacy. Family alliances. You understand. I looked down at my plate. The food suddenly looked gray. Sweet. That word again. It was starting to feel like code for not good enough. Alex squeezed my hand harder. We'll talk about this later, he said quietly. But later never seemed to come. A few weeks after that, there was a weekend at their Hamptons house. Big place right on the water, white shingles, wraparound porch, private beach. I'd been excited at first. A whole weekend together, maybe some time alone with Alex on the sand. But it turned into another performance. Saturday night, we were all in the living room after dinner. Fire going, even though it wasn't that cold. Wine flowing. James was scrolling on his phone, Victoria was showing her mom something on her tablet, photos from a gala, I think. His dad was reading the Wall Street Journal. Alex and I were on the couch, my legs tucked under me, his arm around my shoulders. Then his mom closed the tablet and looked at Alex. We've set a date for Charlotte to come for dinner. 2 weeks from Friday. You'll be there, won't you? Alex sat up straighter. Mom. It's just dinner, she said smoothly. No pressure. But you should keep your options open. You've been with Mia for, how long now? Almost a year? It's natural to explore. I felt my throat close. A year. If only she knew. Victoria looked over. Honestly, Alex, you've always said you wanted someone who understands our world. Charlotte does. She grew up in it, same as you. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. My voice came out calm, even though my heart was pounding. Alex is happy with who he's with. The room went still. His mom turned to me with that polite, frozen smile. Of course, dear. We're just thinking of his future. His dad folded his newspaper. Mia, you seem like a nice girl. But this family has responsibilities. Expectations. Alex knows that. Alex stood up then. Enough. His voice was low, but firm. I'm not interested in Charlotte. I'm with Mia. That's it. His mom's eyebrows went up. Darling, don't be dramatic. We're only suggesting. I said no. He looked at me, his eyes apologizing again. Let's go for a walk. We went out to the porch. The ocean was dark, waves crashing steady in the distance. He pulled me into his arms as soon as the door closed behind us. I'm sorry, he whispered into my hair. I should have shut it down harder. I nodded against his chest. They really want you with someone like her. They want me with someone they approve of, he said. But I don't care. I chose you. I married you. The word married hung between us, quiet and secret. I wanted to believe it was enough. But the whispers kept coming. I'd catch them sometimes, closed doors down the hall when I came back from the bathroom. Low voices stopping when I walked into a room. Distant looks across the breakfast table, like they were measuring me and finding me short every time. One afternoon in the Hamptons, I was in the kitchen getting water. Victoria and her mom were in the adjoining sunroom, doors cracked open. I didn't mean to listen, but their voices carried. She's perfectly pleasant, Victoria was saying. But come on, Mom. She's not one of us. She'll never fit in. I know, darling. But Alex is going through a phase. He'll come to his senses. Especially once he spends more time with Charlotte. She's perfect for him. I stood frozen by the fridge, glass in hand. Water overflowed onto my fingers, cold and shocking. I turned off the tap quietly and slipped away before they saw me. That night, Alex and I were in our guest room, the one at the far end of the hall, smaller than the others. He was getting ready for bed, brushing his teeth. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the closed door. I heard them today, I said quietly. He stopped, toothbrush in mouth. Came out of the bathroom wiping his face. What do you mean? Your mom and Victoria. Talking about how I'll never fit in. How you'll come to your senses when you meet Charlotte again. His face darkened. He sat beside me, took my hand. Mia, I'm so sorry. They're wrong. Completely wrong. I know you love me, I said. My voice stayed calm, even though my eyes were stinging. But they're your family. And they hate that I'm here. They don't hate you. They don't know you yet. I looked at him. They don't want to know me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled me close. I'm stuck, he admitted finally. I love you more than anything. But they're my family. I don't want to lose them either. I rested my head on his shoulder. I don't want you to lose them. But I can't keep pretending this doesn't hurt. We stayed like that for a long time, the house quiet around us. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed softly. Whispers carried faintly through the walls, then faded. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about how long we could keep going like this, me smiling through the small cuts, him caught in the middle, our marriage hidden like something shameful. The crack was getting wider. I could feel it. But I stayed calm. I always did. Because I loved him. And because I still hoped he'd choose me, really choose me, when the time came. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday morning in December. Alex had been tense for days, buried in calls and emails about some big board meeting at his family's company. Harrington Enterprises, the name was everywhere in the city, on buildings, foundations, headlines. Alex was the heir, the one they were grooming to take over fully when his dad stepped back. He asked me to come with him that day. Not to the meeting itself, but to wait in the executive lounge afterward. It's the annual shareholders update, he said over breakfast in our apartment. Then there's a family lunch to celebrate the numbers. I want you there. It's time. Time. That word again. I felt a flicker of hope. Time for what? He looked at me, coffee mug paused halfway to his mouth. To tell them. Properly. No more hiding. My heart jumped. After months of small hurts and whispered plans, he was finally ready. I nodded, trying not to show how scared I was. Okay. The headquarters was downtown, a sleek glass tower that reflected the gray sky. We rode the private elevator to the top floor. Everything was quiet efficiency, marble, muted colors, assistants in tailored suits gliding around. Alex kissed my cheek before disappearing into the boardroom. Won't be long. Love you. I sat in the lounge with a magazine I didn't read, staring out at the city instead. My phone buzzed with work emails, but I couldn't focus. I kept picturing the lunch, me sitting at the table, Alex standing up, saying the words. She's my wife. I wondered what their faces would look like. Shock, maybe anger. But then, eventually, acceptance. That's what I told myself. An hour passed. Then another. I heard muffled voices from the hallway, doors opening and closing. Finally, Alex texted, meeting ran long. Family heading to the private dining room now. Come join us? I stood, smoothed my skirt, the navy one I'd bought specially, simple but elegant, and walked down the corridor. The dining room was at the end, double doors cracked open. I could hear laughter inside, clinking glasses. His mom's voice carried, such wonderful news to celebrate. I pushed the door open quietly and stepped in. The room went still. It was bigger than I expected, long polished tables set for 10, floor-to-ceiling windows looking over the skyline. The family was already seated, his parents at the ends, Victoria and James on one side, his grandmother in her usual pearls. Two older men I recognized as board members sat farther down. And at the empty seat next to Alex, meant for me, I thought, was a woman I'd never met in person, but whose face I knew from Instagram and the stories. Charlotte. Blonde, poised, in a cream blazer that screamed old money. She was smiling at something Alex's dad had just said, her hand resting lightly on a glass of champagne. Everyone turned when I appeared in the doorway. Alex stood halfway out of his chair, eyes wide. Mia. His mom recovered first. That polite smile again, but sharper now. Oh, Mia. We weren't expecting you today. Alex mentioned you might be busy with work. The room felt colder. I stayed near the door, hands clasped in front of me. He asked me to come. Victoria glanced at Charlotte, then back at me. A small, almost pitying laugh escaped her. Sweetheart, we're in the middle of a family celebration. Perhaps another time. Charlotte tilted her head, curious but kind looking on the surface. Hi, she said softly. You must be Alex's friend. Friend. Again. Alex moved toward me. Mom, everyone, this isn't. His dad cleared his throat. Son, sit down. We're toasting an important announcement. He held up his glass. The board members did the same. Charlotte's cheeks pinked slightly, like she knew what was coming. I felt my stomach drop. His dad continued, voice booming with pride. As you all know, the future of Harrington Enterprises depends on strong leadership and strong alliances. Today, after a very productive board meeting, we're thrilled to share that Alex and Charlotte have agreed to move forward together. An engagement to be formalized this spring. Two great families joining forces. To the next generation. Glasses raised. Here, here. Charlotte smiled modestly. Victoria beamed. His grandmother nodded approval. Alex stood frozen. Dad, no. That's not. But his mom cut in smoothly. It's been discussed for months, darling. Charlotte's family is delighted. The board loves the stability it signals. And really, it's past time you settled with someone suitable. Suitable. The word hit me like a quiet slap. I looked at Alex. He was staring at his father, face pale. You discussed this without me? His dad waved a hand. We knew you'd come around. You've been distracted lately. His eyes flicked to me, dismissive. This little phase has gone on long enough. Phase. Little phase. Charlotte looked uncomfortable now, glancing between us. Alex? I felt the room tilt. All those months of small insults, ignored words, whispers behind closed doors, they crystallized in that moment. I wasn't a phase. I was his wife. And they were toasting an engagement to someone else while I stood in the doorway like an intruder. My voice came out calm. Steady. I didn't raise it. I didn't need to. Alex, I said quietly. Tell them. Every head turned to me again. His mom's brow furrowed. Tell us what, dear? Alex looked at me, eyes pleading. I saw the war inside him, love for me, fear of them, years of expectation pressing down. I waited. The silence stretched. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked at his father, then back at me. And said nothing. Something inside me stilled. Went quiet. I took one step forward. My hands were steady as I reached into my bag and pulled out the small velvet box I'd carried for months, the one with our marriage certificate folded inside, and our rings. I hadn't planned to bring it. But that morning, when he said it was time, I'd slipped it in. Just in case. I opened the box and set it gently on the table, near the center. The certificate unfolded slightly, our names visible. The two plain gold bands glinted under the chandelier light. Then I looked up. Met every pair of eyes, one by one. She's not his friend, I said, voice soft but clear. I'm his wife. We've been married for 9 months. A paper fluttered from someone's hand, Victoria's, I think. It drifted to the floor like a leaf. Silence. Complete, heavy silence. His mom's glass paused halfway to her lips. Her face drained of color. His dad's mouth opened, then closed. The board members exchanged stunned glances. Grandmother's sharp eyes narrowed on the certificate, then on me. Charlotte's hand flew to her mouth. She looked at Alex. Is this true? Victoria whispered, what? James just stared. Alex finally moved. He came to me, took my hand. His voice was rough. It's true. Mia is my wife. I married her because I love her. Not because of alliances or boards or any of that. I love her. His mom found her voice first. It came out thin, disbelieving. You married her? Without telling us? His dad slammed his glass down. This is absurd. Some city hall nonsense? It can be undone. No, Alex said firmly. It won't be. I felt every gaze like weight on my skin. Shock turning to something colder. His mom's eyes filled, not with tears of joy, but with something close to betrayal. Victoria's face twisted, like she couldn't process it. Charlotte stood slowly, excused herself quietly, and left the room. The stillness was unbearable. No one moved. No one spoke. I looked at Alex. His hand was tight around mine, but I could feel him shaking slightly. His dad broke the quiet. Voice low, dangerous. You've made a fool of this family. Alex didn't answer. I picked up the box, closed it gently. The rings clinked softly inside. I'm sorry it came out this way, I said to the room. My voice stayed calm. But I'm not sorry it's out. Then I turned and walked toward the door. Alex followed. Mia. I paused in the hallway, away from their eyes. Papers rustled behind us, someone picking up the fallen sheet. A chair scraped. He reached for me. I should have said it sooner. I'm sorry. I froze. I looked at him. Really looked. The man I loved, caught between worlds. I know, I said quietly. We left the building together, but the air between us felt different now. The truth was out, hanging in the cold December light. Behind us, in that boardroom, the silence lingered long after we were gone. Faces changed forever. And nothing would be the same. We didn't go home right away. Alex drove us out of the city, past the bridges and into the quiet suburbs, until the skyline disappeared in the rearview mirror. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The radio stayed off. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional click of the turn signal when he changed lanes. Finally, he pulled into an empty parking lot by a dark park and turned off the car. Streetlights glowed faintly through the windows. I'm sorry, he said into the silence. His voice was raw. I should have stopped it before you had to. I looked at him. His hands were still gripping the wheel, knuckles white. You did stop it, I said quietly. In the end. He shook his head. Not soon enough. I let them humiliate you. Again. I didn't argue. There was nothing to say that would fix it. I just reached over and rested my hand on his arm. He let go of the wheel and pulled me across the console into a tight hug. We stayed like that until the windows fogged and my neck started to ache. When we finally got back to our apartment, it was past midnight. The place felt smaller than usual, warmer. Safe. I kicked off my shoes and went straight to the kitchen to make tea. Alex followed, hovering like he didn't know where to stand. His phone started buzzing the second we walked in. Texts, calls, voicemails. He silenced it and set it face down on the counter. They're going to be furious, he said. I know. He rubbed his face. My dad's probably already calling lawyers. I poured hot water into 2 mugs. Let him. We sat on the couch with our tea, legs tangled under a blanket. The city lights blinked through the window, but the room was dim, just the soft glow from the kitchen lights spilling in. At 2 a.m., he finally checked his phone. 23 missed calls. Mostly his parents, a few from Victoria. One from his grandmother. He played the voicemails on speaker, volume low. She looked at me then, really looked, for maybe the first time. Mia, I owe you an apology. What happened at the lunch was unkind. Unforgivable, really. I didn't know. I nodded. Thank you. But she wasn't done. That doesn't mean I approve. You're not from our world. You don't understand the responsibilities, the scrutiny. This marriage will make things difficult, for both of you. Alex stepped closer to me. We'll figure it out. She left after 20 minutes. No hugs. No promises. Just a quiet, we'll talk soon, at the door. His father never came. He sent emails instead, formal, legal sounding. Questions about prenups, there wasn't one, suggestions about discreet separation agreements. Threats, veiled as advice, about board confidence and stock prices. Alex forwarded them to his own lawyer without replying. Victoria texted once, I'm sorry for how it came out. But I'm not sorry for what I said before. She's not right for you. He didn't respond to her either. The power had shifted. Slowly, quietly. Alex stopped trying to please them. He went to the office when he wanted, made decisions without running them by his dad first. When the board asked questions about personal matters affecting leadership stability, he told them plainly, my personal life is settled. I'm married to the woman I love. That's the end of it. Some board members pushed back. A few resigned in protest. But most stayed. The numbers were still good. The company was still strong. At home, things changed too. We talked more. Really talked. Late into the nights, under the glow of the bedside lamp or the blue light of the TV we weren't watching. He told me about growing up in that big house, empty rooms echoing with expectations, nannies more than parents, boarding schools where friendships were measured by last names. How love always came with conditions. I told him about my mom's tiny apartment, Friday night pizza on the floor, laughter that filled every corner even when money was tight. How love, for me, was simple. Just being chosen. We both cried some nights. Not dramatic. Just quiet tears wiped away with thumbs and soft kisses. One night, about 2 weeks after the reveal, we were in bed. The apartment was dark except for the city glow through the curtains. Empty takeout containers on the nightstand. Late night lights. I was scared, he admitted into my shoulder. Of losing them. Of losing everything I thought I was supposed to be. I know, I whispered. But I was more scared of losing you. I turned to face him. Traced the line of his jaw in the dim light. You didn't. He kissed me then, slow, deep, like he was making sure I was real. The family reactions kept coming, in waves. His grandmother called once. Just once. Her voice was steady, sharp as ever. You've chosen, she said. I respect choices, even wrong ones. But don't expect me to pretend happiness. The will stands as it is, for now. Meaning, his inheritance could change. He thanked her for her honesty and hung up. James texted a meme, a picture of a dumpster fire with family group chat RN. Then, seriously though, congrats? Idk man. This is wild. It was the closest thing to support we got from any of them. Charlotte sent flowers. White lilies, with a card, I'm truly sorry for my part in the confusion. Wishing you both happiness. See. I put them in a vase anyway. Legally, everything held. No prenup meant I was entitled to half if things ended, but they knew Alex would never let it come to that. The marriage was real, filed, witnessed. Undeniable. Emotionally, the consequences were deeper. Alex started pulling away from the family foundation events. We skipped the holiday party at the estate. He sent a polite regret email. His mom called on Christmas Eve, voice softer than before. The house feels empty without you. He put her on speaker. I heard the strain in her words. We're spending it here, he said. Just us. How love, for me, was simple. Just being chosen. We both cried some nights. Not dramatic. Just quiet tears wiped away with thumbs and soft kisses. One night, about 2 weeks after the reveal, we were in bed. The apartment was dark except for the city glow through the curtains. Empty takeout containers on the nightstand. Late night lights. I was scared, he admitted into my shoulder. Of losing them. Of losing everything I thought I was supposed to be. I know, I whispered. But I was more scared of losing you. I turned to face him. Traced the line of his jaw in the dim light. You didn't. He kissed me then, slow, deep, like he was making sure I was real. The family reactions kept coming, in waves. His grandmother called once. Just once. Her voice was steady, sharp as ever. You've chosen, she said. I respect choices, even wrong ones. But don't expect me to pretend happiness. The will stands as it is, for now. Meaning, his inheritance could change. He thanked her for her honesty and hung up. James texted a meme, a picture of a dumpster fire with family group chat RN. Then, seriously though, congrats? Idk man. This is wild. It was the closest thing to support we got from any of them. Charlotte sent flowers. White lilies, with a card, I'm truly sorry for my part in the confusion. Wishing you both happiness. See. I put them in a vase anyway. Legally, everything held. No prenup meant I was entitled to half if things ended, but they knew Alex would never let it come to that. The marriage was real, filed, witnessed. Undeniable. Emotionally, the consequences were deeper. Alex started pulling away from the family foundation events. We skipped the holiday party at the estate. He sent a polite regret email. His mom called on Christmas Eve, voice softer than before. The house feels empty without you. He put her on speaker. I heard the strain in her words. We're spending it here, he said. Just us. A long pause. I see. We didn't hear from them on Christmas Day. But on New Year's Eve, a package arrived. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting on the tag. Inside, a framed photo from years ago, Alex at 12, grinning on a sailboat with his parents. On the back, in his mother's neat script, we're trying. It wasn't acceptance. Not yet. But it was something. We hung the photo in the hallway anyway. Next to one of us, our City Hall wedding day, arms around each other, laughing outside in the cold. Two worlds. Side by side. The apartment felt fuller now. Books on the shelves, plants on the windowsill, my design sketches pinned to the fridge next to his work notes. Empty rooms no more. Late one night in January, snow falling quietly outside, Alex turned off the lights and pulled me close. They'll come around, he said. Or they won't. But I'm not going anywhere. I believed him. The power had shifted, not with shouting or ultimatums, but with quiet truth. I remained calm through all of it. Because the storm had passed. And we were still standing. Together. Spring came early that year. One morning in April, I woke up to sunlight pouring through the open windows, the kind of soft golden light that makes everything feel possible again. The curtains were moving gently in the breeze, and the city sounds drifted in, honking taxis, someone laughing on the street below. Alex was still asleep beside me, one arm thrown over my waist like he was afraid I'd slip away in the night. I lay there for a while, watching the light shift across the ceiling. 8 months had passed since that day in the boardroom. 8 months of quiet battles, late-night talks, and slow, careful steps forward. Things didn't fix themselves overnight. There were more arguments, some with his family, most between us. Alex had to learn how to stand firm without cutting everyone off completely. I had to learn how to speak up without apologizing for existing. We both had to figure out what us looked like when the secret was gone and the dust was still settling. But we did it. One day at a time. The real turning point came in February. His dad called an emergency family meeting at the estate. No lunch, no pretense, just the dining room with the long table, chairs pulled close. Alex asked if I wanted to come. I said yes. Not because I felt ready, but because hiding wasn't an option anymore. We drove out together on a cold Sunday. The house looked the same, big, perfect, a little cold. But when we walked in, his mom hugged him. Not stiff. Not polite. A real hug. She hugged me too, tentative, like she was testing if I'd pull away. I didn't. They were all there, parents, Victoria, James, even grandmother in her usual chair by the window. His dad started. Voice lower than usual. We've made mistakes, he said. Big ones. We treated Mia like she didn't matter. We tried to plan your life without asking what you wanted. That stops now. Victoria spoke next. I was cruel, she said to me directly. I said things I'm ashamed of. I was protecting what I thought was our world. But I was wrong. You're part of it now, whether I like it or not. And I'm trying to like it. James just shrugged and muttered, sorry for being a jerk. Grandmother was last. She looked at me for a long moment. You've got spine, she said finally. I respect that. Doesn't mean I understand this marriage yet. But I respect it. Alex squeezed my hand under the table. Then he spoke. Calm, clear. I love you all. You're my family. But Mia is my family first now. If you can't treat her with respect, if you ever make her feel small again, I won't be here. Not for holidays, not for meetings, not for anything. That's the boundary. Silence. Then his dad nodded. Understood. It wasn't perfect forgiveness. It wasn't a movie ending with tears and group hugs. But it was real. A line drawn. A choice made. He chose love. After that, things eased. Slowly. We started going to some family events again, but on our terms. We left early if it felt wrong. We skipped others without explanation. His mom called me once a week, not long talks, just checking in. She asked about my work one day. Really asked. Listened to the answer. Victoria sent me a text after I landed a big design client. Congrats. Proud of you. It was stiff, but it was something. James came over to the apartment one weekend to watch a game with Alex. He fist bumped me on the way out and said, "You make better nachos than Mom's chef." Small steps. Alex changed the most. He started saying no at work when things crossed into family pressure. He took days off without guilt. We went on a trip, just us, to a little cabin upstate. No phones for 3 days. We cooked over a fire, walked in the woods, made love with the windows open to the cold night air. He told me he'd never felt freer. I grew too. I stopped shrinking myself to fit their idea of acceptable. I wore what I wanted to family dinners. I spoke up when I had something to say. I designed a new portfolio that got me freelance jobs with companies I'd only dreamed of. My name started appearing in places that weren't connected to Harrington. One morning in May, I woke up to Alex making coffee. Sunlight again, brighter now, full spring. The windows were open wide, breeze carrying the smell of blooming trees from the park across the street. He brought me a mug and sat on the edge of the bed. "I've been thinking," he said. "About?" "The house. The big one. My parents want to sign it over to us eventually. As an investment, they said. But I told them no." I raised an eyebrow. "I don't want it," he said. "Not like that. If we ever live in something bigger, it'll be because we choose it. Not because it's expected." I smiled. "Good." He took my hand. "I choose this. Our apartment. Sunday mornings with bad coffee and open windows. You in my t-shirt, hair messy. I choose love that doesn't come with strings." I leaned over and kissed him. Soft, slow. Morning light on our skin. "I forgive them," I said later, when we were standing at the window watching people walk dogs below. "Not because they deserve it yet. But because I don't want to carry the hurt anymore. Forgiveness doesn't mean weakness. It means I'm free." He wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You're the strongest person I know." We stayed there a long time. Breeze moving the curtains. Coffee cooling on the sill. Healing isn't loud. It's quiet mornings. Boundaries held without anger. Growth that happens in small, steady ways. Clarity comes when you stop waiting for other people to see your worth, and start living like you already know it. We knew it now. Together. Years later, when I look back on everything, it doesn't feel like a storm anymore. It feels like a long, quiet season that changed shape slowly, one conversation, one boundary, one ordinary morning at a time. We're sitting at the family table now, the same long darkwood one that once felt like a battlefield. But tonight it's different. Candles flicker down the center, soft music playing low from the hidden speakers, something classical, gentle, the kind his mom always loved. The windows are open to the summer evening, warm air carrying the scent of cut grass and distant ocean. Plates are half empty, wine glasses catching the light. Everyone is here, his parents, Victoria and her husband, James with his new girlfriend, grandmother at the head in her pearls but softer around the eyes. And us, Alex and me, at the other end, our 2 kids across from us, chattering about school and soccer practice. Soft smiles all around. No tight lips, no careful politeness. Real ones. Our daughter, Lily, is telling a story about a drawing she made in art class, hands waving dramatically. James laughs out loud. Victoria leans over to help our son, Ethan, cut his chicken. His mom, Evelyn, passes me the salad bowl without being asked, our fingers brushing in that easy way that comes after years of practice. No one is performing anymore. I catch Alex's eye across the table. He smiles at me, the same smile from our City Hall wedding day, only deeper now, lined with everything we've walked through together. He reaches under the table and finds my hand. Our rings touch, gold warm from our skin. This is what healing looks like. Not a single dramatic moment, but 1,000 small ones that add up until the air feels different. It took time. After that spring of boundaries and quiet choices, the years unfolded gently. Alex kept leading the company, but he changed things. More flexibility for employees, better parental leave, decisions that weren't just about the bottom line. His dad retired fully, not angrily, but with a kind of reluctant pride. He still grumbles sometimes about modern ways, but he shows up to every grandkid's birthday with gifts that are thoughtful, not just expensive. Victoria and I became something like friends. Not close in the way of sharing every secret, but real. She asked me once, years later, over coffee in the city, why I never yelled back. Why I stayed so calm when they treated me like I didn't belong. I told her the truth, because shouting wouldn't have made me feel bigger. It would have made me feel smaller. Silence, real silence, the kind that comes from knowing your own worth, has its own voice. She was quiet for a long time after that. Then she said, I wish I'd learned that sooner. Grandmother passed 2 years ago. At her funeral, she'd left me something in her will, not money, but a letter. In her sharp handwriting, you taught us all something about dignity. Thank you for not letting us break it in you. And thank you for loving my grandson enough to fight for him quietly. I cried when I read it. Alone in our bedroom, with the door closed. Alex held me after. Money never became the center of our life. We kept our apartment in the city for a long time, raised the kids there until they needed more space. Then we bought a house upstate, nothing grand, just land and light and rooms that felt lived in. We go to the estate for holidays, but it's not our home. Our home is wherever we are together. People sometimes ask me, friends, clients, even strangers online after a magazine did a small piece on us, if it was worth it. Marrying into that world. The cold looks, the judgment, the years of slow thawing. I always answer the same, it was never about marrying into a world. It was about marrying a man. And he chose me back, every single day, even when it was hard. Love isn't proved in the easy moments. It's proved in the quiet ones, when he stands up and says, no, to the people who raised him because treating me badly isn't okay. When he comes home exhausted from a board fight and still asks about my day first. When he holds my hand under the table at family dinners that used to feel like trials. And dignity? That was mine to keep. No one could take it unless I gave it away. I learned that early, growing up with my mom in that little apartment. We didn't have much, but we had respect, for ourselves, for each other. Money can buy big houses and long tables and perfect flowers, but it can't buy the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It can't buy the choice to stay kind when you've been hurt. It can't buy the strength to stay calm when everything inside wants to scream. Respect is something you give yourself first. Then, if you're lucky, others learn to mirror it. Silence became my strength, not the silence of shrinking, but the silence of knowing. Knowing I was enough. Knowing I didn't need to prove it with words or anger or tears in front of people who weren't ready to see me. I waited. I lived my life. I built my career, my friendships, my family. And slowly, the people who mattered started to see. Alex once said to me, late at night with the kids finally asleep down the hall, you didn't just marry me. You saved me. From becoming someone I didn't want to be. I told him, you saved yourself. By choosing love over fear. I just stood next to you while you did it. We still have arguments. Money comes up sometimes, how to handle trusts for the kids, whether to accept certain invitations. His family isn't perfect. Neither are we. But the foundation is different now. Built on choice, not expectation. If I could go back and tell that younger version of myself, the one standing frozen in the boardroom doorway, heart pounding, holding that little velvet box, I'd say this. Stay calm. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to wait for the right moment. Love deeply, but never at the cost of your dignity. Money opens doors, but only respect keeps them open. And silence, true, steady silence, isn't empty. It's full of power. The people who deserve to be in your life will hear it eventually. They'll hear you without you ever needing to raise your voice. Looking around this table tonight, with the candles burning low and the kids laughing and Alex's thumb tracing slow circles on my hand, I know it was all true. Love won, not because it shouted, but because it stayed. Dignity remained, not because it fought loudly, but because it never surrendered quietly. And respect? It grew in the spaces we left open. In the pauses. In the calm. To anyone listening to this story, anyone who's ever felt small in a room full of people who think they're big, remember this. You are already enough. Your worth isn't measured by bank accounts or bloodlines or how loudly you defend yourself. It's measured by how you treat yourself when no one is watching. By how you love when it's hard. By how you choose to stand, even if it's quietly, in the truth of who you are. Some truths do not need to shout. They only need the right moment to be heard. And when that moment comes, the whole room goes still. Then, slowly, the world shifts to make space for them. For you. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you love, or if it made you pause and think for a moment, then you are not alone. These stories are shared so we can feel, reflect, and heal together. Every story you hear here is told with care, honesty, and quiet emotion, just like real life. If you want to continue listening to stories that speak softly but stay with you for a long time, then please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts, more homes, and more quiet moments like this one. Stay with us, because there are many more real, emotional stories waiting to be told, and maybe, one of them will feel like it was written just for you.